Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soot to Success, the audio podcast. This is episode 6, January 13th, 2025, and it features Marshall Peters. Hey, Marshall, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ray. Hopefully this finds you good. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be on the show. Looking forward to it.
So how you been, Marshall? You are a legend in the chimney sweep industry. And I'm serious.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, you're a legend. And you've been a chimney sweep for how many years now?
Originally started in 1990 with a business, but actually my first chimney sweep was March 20th, 1969, when I turned 13, and I worked with my dad for the day because that's what I wanted to do.
You're kidding. So your dad was the chimney sweep?
My dad was an HVAC contractor, and he had a very dirty oil flue, actually in a mobile home, and I swept that with a mop. So that was my introduction. And on the same day, we actually removed a squirrel from a fireplace because they had a squirrel in there, and he asked me to go grab the large rope from the back of his truck, put it down, and the squirrel ran out. And yeah, that was my day with my dad on my 13th birthday way back then. And but professionally, since 1990, I had a family of 4 to feed while we were planting a church in State College, and it became the thing. You know, it's like Paul making tents, Marshall's sweeping chimneys, and loving people as being a pastor of a kind of a little church plant in State College. I took my job very seriously. I immediately was certified with the original chimney sweeping certifications, Chimney Safety Institute of America. I actually, you know what? I'm holding my badge in my hand. That was number 2582, and got certified. And then because I was such a believer in education, and that's just part and parcel to who I am, I also was able and key to get all the other sweeps in the area to also then be certified. I had some conversations with the Guild and with CSIA a long time ago, and always was somebody who pushed for the idea of, you know what, we need a relining certification. But I did my thing, continued to gain experience, read the white paper way back in the early 90s, learned a lot, and just always had a heart not only to sweep and service things, but to educate clients and then educate other sweeps and bring them along. My passion was to raise the water for all the sweeps in my area, that they become as knowledgeable as they can and walk with integrity, doing the best job for their clients. Eventually, that passion overwhelmed things, and we started Certified Chimney Professionals based on a need that I saw in the industry of a better way of raising up brand new sweeps and trying to get them educated as quickly as possible in the basics, not necessarily of sweeping, but in the basics of the science, drafting, flow, all the technical parts of chimney sweeping. And in 2010, we began Certified Chimney Professionals, in addition to my wife running at that point what was known as Top Hat Chimney in State College, PA. It was an interesting move. So, you know, I faithfully serviced chimneys for 20 years professionally, and then moved into the education realm of it, which was actually my true gifting and calling. But sometimes you have to pay the price, and you got to be out on the field and earn all those stories that you can tell and all the scars that you can brag about. And then we began to educate sweeps in Certified Chimney Professionals.
So I've been in Florida. About a year ago, I opened up a company called AI Experts LLC. And what it does is that it looks at artificial intelligence and all the new things coming up. And so the latest AI development, which is, it's getting to be where it's just insane. But the artificial intelligence programs can analyze anything, whether it's a website, a book, a magazine, something, anything at all, and then have a conversation like it's a talk show. You made the Certified Chimney Professional manual, and imagine if two people read your book, what they would say. That's what I want you to listen to and program in and tell me what you think. So here we go.
Okay.
All right, so get this. More homes are damaged by dryer vents
Oh, really?
than wood burners every year.
Wow.
Yeah, makes you think twice about that little lint trap, huh?
For sure.
But you wanted to know more about chimney sweeping, and we've got a stack of fascinating sources for this deep dive.
No, this will be good.
It's like we snagged a chimney professional's secret handbook filled with stories and safety tips and even some science.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how this profession has evolved over time, you know?
yeah.
We're going to take you from the dark, sooty days of chimney sweeps past
Right.
to the high-tech tools used today.
Okay, so picture this 17th century England.
Okay.
Back then, the more chimneys your house had,
Uh-huh.
the bigger it was considered.
Interesting.
And get this, you were taxed based on how many fireplaces you had.
What?
It was called the hearth tax.
The hearth tax.
Yeah.
Wow. That really puts into perspective how central fireplaces were to daily life.
Right.
Back then, it was your heat, your stove, your only light source. We take all that for granted now.
And it wasn't all charming fireplaces and cozy hearths.
Right?
The manual talks about these young chimney sweeps, some as young as 7,
Oh, my God.
being sent up those flues
Wow.
with just metal scrapers.
Really?
Can you imagine?
That's awful.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of the dangers of unregulated child labor.
Yeah.
Thankfully, things started to change in 1864 when Parliament finally outlawed the practice, thanks in part to reformers like Lord Shaftesbury.
It makes you wonder if he had a personal connection to the issue, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wonder.
And thank goodness for Joseph Glass, that clever engineer from Bristol.
Yeah.
He invented the cane and brush system that chimney sweeps still use today.
Wow.
Talk about a game changer.
Absolutely. Not only did it make the job significantly safer,
Right.
but also more efficient.
Uh-huh.
His invention really laid the groundwork for the modern chimney sweeping techniques we see today.
Now hop across the pond with me to America.
Okay.
The manual says that chimney sweeping here wasn't really a thing until, well, tragedy struck.
Oh, no.
Yeah, people learned the hard way about the importance of clean chimneys, often from their neighbors' misfortunes.
Oh, that's how they learned.
Yeah.
Wow. It highlights how communities would share crucial knowledge,
Right.
especially before things like building codes and widespread access to information.
Yeah.
It was a learn as you go, and sometimes, unfortunately, a learn from your neighbor's mistakes situation.
Fast forward to the 1970s.
Okay.
Remember the oil crisis?
Yeah.
People were scrambling for alternatives to heat their homes, which led to this big resurgence in wood and coal stoves.
Bro, right.
Suddenly, chimney sweeps were in high demand.
Wow. It's fascinating how a global event like that
Yeah.
can completely reshape an entire profession.
Yeah.
And publications like Mother Earth News, which were all about self-sufficiency and going back to basics, really fueled that need for chimney sweeps.
So we've gone from kids and flues to a booming business,
Wow.
all thanks to rising oil prices.
Crazy.
But there's a serious side to all this. This manual stresses safety above all else.
Right.
It makes it very clear that chimney sweeping is not a DIY project.
And rightfully so, you're often working at heights on rooftops.
Right.
That can be unstable and dealing with potentially hazardous materials.
Yeah.
There's a reason these folks are professionals.
The manual has a ton of practical ladder safety tips.
Oh, good.
Did you know there's a specific ratio for stability?
I did not.
1 foot out for every 4 feet up.
Oh, wow.
And are we secure ladders to gutters
Okay.
or installed bolts?
Uh-huh.
You never want to rely on just leaning it against the chimney.
Good to know. It's easy to get complacent with ladders, but one wrong move can have serious consequences.
Yeah.
The manual also mentions the danger of aluminum ladders near power lines.
Oh, yeah.
Electricity can actually jump.
Wow.
That's why using fiberglass ladders is crucial in those situations.
It's a good reminder that even seemingly simple tools can be dangerous if not used correctly.
Right.
Speaking of danger, the manual doesn't sugarcoat roof safety either.
Oh.
Never grab those chimney bricks for support.
Oh.
They might be loose.
Oh, wow.
And those large crowns can be deceiving.
Really?
They could be hiding rotted plywood underneath.
Oh, no. And let's not forget the ever-present danger of falling objects.
Right.
Creosote bricks, tools.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for disaster if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, the manual really emphasizes situational awareness.
Uh-huh.
Conditions on a rooftop can change quickly.
Right.
So you need to be constantly vigilant.
So staying alert and adaptable is key up there.
Now, you know how we all picture chimney sweep with that classic brush?
Yeah.
Well, this manual reveals a whole arsenal of tools beyond that.
Really?
Different brushes for different jobs.
Okay.
Round wire, flat wire, poly brushes. You name it.
It makes sense when you think about it. You wouldn't use the same tool to clean a delicate flue as you would a rough brick chimney.
Exactly. The manual also goes into detail about the different types of rods.
Okay.
Fiberglass, polypropylene, even rattan. Though metal rods are a big no-no near power lines.
Oh, right.
For obvious reasons.
Another electric shock waiting to happen.
Right. Then there are ropes and weights, mechanical cleaning with rotary loops and chains.
Really?
It's like a whole chimney cleaning toolkit.
Wow.
They even talk about chemical cleaning catalysts that make that stubborn creosote brushable.
Oh, interesting.
And guess what? Those chimney cleaning logs that promise a magical clean chimney.
Yeah.
Totally ineffective, according to the manual.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems there's no easy shortcut when it comes to chimney maintenance.
Nope.
But what's exciting is seeing how much innovation is happening within this industry.
Right.
They're constantly looking for safer and more efficient ways to clean chimneys.
And the technology's pretty cool. They talk about video scanners and cameras for inspecting flues.
Uh-huh.
Even insert pullers for those heavy fireplace inserts.
Oh, wow.
No more backaches for chimney sweeps.
Technology has really revolutionized the way chimney professionals can assess and address potential problems.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to see inside the flue and identify a crack that might have been missed with just a visual inspection.
It's like having X-ray vision for your chimney.
Right.
But even with all this fancy tech, the manual stresses the importance of good old-fashioned protective gear.
Of course.
Soot, suits, leather gloves, respirators. Especially important for our bearded sweeps out there.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good reminder that personal safety should never be compromised.
Right.
No matter how experienced you are or how simple the task might seem.
And let's not forget about hearing protection.
Oh, yeah.
Those powerful vacuums can do a number on your ears if you're not careful.
You don't want to trade a clean chimney for permanent hearing loss.
Right now, let's get a little nerdy here.
Okay.
The manual dives into the science behind how chimneys work. And it all starts with this important document called the NFPA 211.
Oh.
Think of it as the Bible for chimney professionals.
It sets the standards for inspection levels and best practices, ensuring a consistent and safety-focused approach across the entire profession.
Yeah, it's like the rule book for chimney sweeping.
Right.
And the first chapter of this rule book,
Okay.
combustion.
Uh-huh.
We all know fire's hot.
Yeah.
But did you know combustion is actually a chemical process?
I did know that, but fill me in.
It's all about oxidation releasing energy in the form of light and heat.
Right.
The manual breaks it down into 3 key elements.
Okay.
Fuel, air, and temperature.
Gotcha.
Easy to remember.
What's that?
FAT.
Oh, FAT.
Yeah.
It's a clever way to demystify a complex process, isn't it?
Yeah.
It helps homeowners understand the basic ingredients needed for a safe and efficient fire.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got the basics of combustion down, but how does that heat actually get from the fire into our living spaces?
Well,
it's not all about just feeling the warmth. There's some serious science happening here, too.
You're right. It's more than just feeling the cozy heat. The manual talks about heat transfer.
And there are actually 3 ways it happens.
Okay.
Radiant heat conduction and convection.
Convection, like those little ovens that circulate hot air.
Right.
So does that mean those old school radiant heaters are using a totally different method to warm us up?
Exactly. Radiant heat is all about those infrared waves. Like the warmth you feel directly from the sun.
Oh, okay.
Think of it like this: the closer you are to the fire, the more intense the radiant heat you feel.
Okay.
Conduction, on the other hand, is about heat transferring through direct contact.
Okay.
Like when you touch a hot stave.
Ouch. Right? Okay, so that explains why those cast iron stoves get so incredibly hot.
Yes.
But what about those convection wood stoves?
Yeah.
Are they doing something different to spread the heat?
They sure are. Convection stoves are designed to circulate that hot air more efficiently throughout the room.
Okay.
They typically have an outer shell surrounding the firebox, creating a pathway for the air to heat up and rise, then circulate back down.
It's like a built-in fan system.
So it's like radiant heat gives you that instant warmth.
Yeah.
And convection spreads it around the room.
Exactly.
But hold on, the manual mentioned something about rough surfaces and heat.
Uh-huh.
What's that all about?
Here's a fun fact. Rough stove surfaces actually emit more heat than smooth ones.
Really?
It's because those tiny bumps and ridges increase the surface area,
Wow.
which allows for more radiant heat to be released.
Wow, so those intricate designs on old stoves aren't just for looks.
Right.
They actually make them more efficient.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've talked about heat, but let's get back to the fuel itself.
Okay.
Burning wood seems pretty straightforward,
Right.
but the manual hints that there's more to it than meets the eye.
You hit the nail on the head. Wood combustion is actually a three-stage process.
Okay.
First, you have drying, where the moisture in the wood evaporates. Then comes pyrolysis.
Pyrolysis?
Which sounds super complicated.
Yeah.
But it's basically the wood decomposing as it gets hotter.
Decomposing by fire?
Yeah.
It's a pretty intense way to describe it.
It's a dramatic process for sure. And finally, you have charcoal.
Okay.
Which is that final stage of burning where a wood has essentially turned into carbon.
So it's not just lighting a log and watching it burn.
Nope.
It's a whole chemical journey.
It is.
But here's what I don't get. If burning wood is a natural process,
yeah,
why does it sometimes create all that nasty creosote buildup?
It all comes down to oxygen, or the lack thereof.
Right.
Incomplete combustion, where there isn't enough oxygen for the fuel to burn completely,
Right.
is the culprit behind those pesky creosote deposits.
So it's like the fire is suffocating.
Yeah.
And that creates all those byproducts that stick to the chimney walls.
Exactly. And remember that FAT acronym we talked about earlier?
FAT.
Well, if any one of those elements, fuel, air, or temperature, is off, it can lead to incomplete combustion and creosote buildup.
Okay, so getting enough air to the fire is crucial.
Yes.
But hold on, the manual mentions different types of creosote. It's not all created equal, is it?
You're right. There's actually a whole hierarchy of creosote.
Okay.
And it can range from a fluffy soot-like substance to something that resembles tar, and even a hard glazed crust that's incredibly difficult to remove.
So there's like a creosote ranking system.
Yeah.
With some being worse than others.
Right.
Tell me more about this creosote villain and its different levels of badness.
Think of it like this first-degree creosote is the beginner level, a sooty dust that's relatively easy to clean.
Okay.
Second degree is more problematic, a flaky tar-like substance that starts to build up and restrict airflow.
Oh.
And then there's the boss level, third-degree creosote.
Okay.
It's a hard, shiny, almost glazed crust that can be extremely difficult to remove and is highly flammable.
Yikes. So that third-degree creosote is the one you really need to watch out for.
Yes.
The manual mentions a fourth type, too. Something about a sticky precursor. Is that even worse?
Think of it as the foundation for those higher degree creosotes. It's a sticky residue that forms on the chimney walls, and if it's not addressed, it can quickly turn into those more stubborn and dangerous forms of creosote.
Okay, so creosote definitely not a chimney's best friend.
Oh.
The manual says that a whopping 25% of residential fires are caused by this stuff.
Wow.
That's a scary statistic. What are the main factors that cause it to build up in the first place?
The manual highlights three major culprits:
Okay.
time, temperature, and smoke density.
Go
The longer creosote is allowed to accumulate, the worse it gets.
Uh-huh.
Low burning temperatures, especially with unseasoned wood, create more smoke and condensation, which leads to more creosote. And if you're burning large loads of wood that smolder rather than burn hot, you're basically creating a creosote factory in your chimney.
So it's a combination of how we burn, what we burn, and how often we clean.
Right.
Makes sense. The manual gives a real-world example that's pretty terrifying.
Oh.
Imagine a wood-burning insert with a small flue collar installed into a much larger fireplace flue.
Okay.
What happens then?
It's a recipe for disaster, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
The hot gases from the insert hit that larger, colder flue and rapidly cool down.
Okay.
That sudden temperature change causes all those tar droplets and water vapor to condense on the flue walls, creating a breeding ground for creosote.
So it's like those gases get shocked by the cold and start clinging to anything they can?
Yeah.
That makes the importance of proper flue sizing crystal clear.
Right.
But what can you do if you're already dealing with a creosote buildup?
The good news is there are solutions.
Okay.
The manual talks about relining the chimney with a smaller diameter flue, installing catalytic combustors that burn off the creosote at lower temperatures.
Okay.
And of course, educating homeowners about the importance of seasoned wood and burning smaller, hotter fires.
It's a multi-pronged approach then.
It is.
You need the right equipment, the right burning practices, and regular cleaning to keep that creosote in check.
Right. But hold on, wood isn't the only fuel source out there. The manual mentions coal too, doesn't it? You're right, coal burning was quite common back in the day.
Yeah.
and there are still some folks who use it today.
Right.
The manual talks about the two main types of coal,
Okay.
anthracite, which is harder and burns hotter,
Okay.
and bituminous, which is softer and produces more smoke.
So different types of coal, different burning characteristics,
Yes,
and probably different cleaning needs.
exactly. The manual emphasizes the importance of shaker grates for coal-burning stoves.
Okay.
These grates allow you to sift out the ash and clinkers,
Clinkers.
those hard melted pieces of coal, which helps maintain efficient burning and airflow.
It sounds like coal burning is a bit more hands-on than wood. What about gas fireplaces? They
Yeah.
seem pretty low maintenance.
Gas fireplaces are definitely known for being cleaner burning,
Right.
but that doesn't mean they're maintenance-free.
Okay.
The manual points out that gas can actually be quite corrosive, especially to clay tile liners.
Really? I would have thought gas would be gentler on the chimney.
It's a bit counterintuitive, but those combustion byproducts from gas,
Can actually eat away at the mortar joints in clay tile liners over time.
oh wow.
That's why the manual recommends annual inspections, even for gas fireplaces, to catch any potential problems early on.
So it's still important to have those regular checkups no matter what fuel you're using.
Yes.
What about oil heating? Do they talk about that in the manual?
They do. Oil is generally considered relatively easy to clean,
Okay.
but the manual warns that newer high-efficiency oil appliances can actually damage chimneys.
What?
Apparently, they produce exhaust gases with lower temperatures,
Uh-huh.
which can lead to condensation and corrosion inside the flue.
Wow. So newer doesn't always mean better when it comes to chimneys.
Right.
It's a good reminder to do your research and make sure your heating system is compatible with your existing chimney. The manual has a surprising warning about another fuel source too, doesn't it?
Yes, and this one's a bit unexpected. Apparently, burning corn can create extremely corrosive exhaust that can actually void your stove warranty.
Wait, corn, like the stuff we eat? People burn that for heat. Some people do. It's considered a renewable fuel source. But the manual makes it very clear that it's not suitable for all stoves and chimneys.
Okay.
That corrosive exhaust can wreak havoc on certain materials. So it's definitely not something to experiment with without consulting the manufacturer's guidelines.
It's a good reminder that using the wrong fuel for your appliance can have some serious consequences.
Right.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here,
You have.
from the history of chimney sweeping to the science behind combustion and even the different fuels people use.
Right.
But what happens when things go wrong?
Oh.
What are some common chimney problems that homeowners might face?
That's a great question, and it's something the manual addresses in detail.
Okay.
It all comes down to understanding two key players in chimney function,
Okay.
draft and flow.
Draft and flow, those sound like meteorological terms.
They are related to air movement. That's for sure. Think of draft as the pressure difference that pulls those exhaust gases up and out of your chimney. It's what creates the suction that keeps smoke flowing in the right direction.
Okay, so it's like the force that drives a hot air balloon upwards.
Exactly. The warmer the air inside the chimney compared to the outside air,
Yeah.
the stronger the draft, and a taller chimney generally has a stronger draft as well.
So a short chimney on a cold day might struggle to create enough draft.
Right.
That makes sense. But what about flow?
Flow is all about the volume of gases moving through the system.
Okay.
Think of it like a hose. The wider the hose, the greater the volume of water that can flow through it.
Got it. So draft is like the pressure pushing the water,
Yeah.
and flow is the actual amount of water going through.
Right.
But how do these two work together in a chimney?
They're definitely connected. More draft generally means more flow.
Okay.
Just like more pressure in a hose leads to greater water flow.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. Several things can affect flow within the chimney itself.
Like what?
Think about those bends in the flue, the length of the connector pipes, and any creosote buildup.
Right.
All of these things create friction and resistance,
Yeah.
which can slow down the flow even if you have good draft. And of course, the size of the flue itself plays a major role.
Right.
A narrow flue restricts flow, just like a narrow hose restricts water flow.
So it's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
Too much resistance or too small a flue can really mess things up.
Yeah.
The manual mentions something about external factors too, right?
Uh-huh.
Like how tightly sealed houses can impact draft.
Absolutely. Modern homes are often built to be incredibly airtight.
Yeah.
which is great for energy efficiency, but can create a problem for fireplaces.
Okay.
If there's not enough makeup air coming into the house to replace the air going up the chimney,
Right.
it can create negative pressure, which can disrupt the draft and even cause smoke to spill back into the room.
It's like the fireplace is gasping for air. So what can you do if you suspect your airtight house is messing with your chimney's draft?
The manual suggests several solutions.
Okay.
One is to simply crack open a window near the fireplace when it's in use. That allows fresh air into the room and helps balance the pressure.
Makes sense.
Another option is to install a dedicated air intake vent that draws outside air directly into the fireplace.
Oh, okay.
And of course, sealing any air leaks in the house, especially around doors and windows, can also help.
It's all about making sure there's a good flow of air throughout the house, not just up the chimney.
Right.
But let's get back to those chimney problems we were talking about. How do you actually diagnose what's going on?
Okay.
The manual mentions a 3-step approach, right?
It does. The first step is observation.
Okay.
A skilled chimney professional will carefully examine the entire system, looking for any clues that might point to the problem.
Uh-huh.
They'll check for creosote buildup, damaged components, improper installation, and even things like nearby trees that might be obstructing airflow.
So it's like being a chimney detective.
Yes.
What happens once they've gathered all those clues?
Then it's time for step 2.
Okay.
Testing with temporary solutions. This might involve things like opening a window to see if it improves the draft or adjusting the damper to see how it affects airflow.
Right.
It's about experimenting a bit to try and pinpoint the root cause of the problem.
I like that approach.
No.
It's like troubleshooting a computer or a car.
Yeah.
You try different things until you find the culprit, and once you've identified the problem.
You move on to step 3,
Okay.
offering a permanent solution.
Okay.
This could range from something simple like cleaning out creosote or repairing a damaged damper to something more complex like installing a chimney cap or relining the flue.
It's a logical process, but it also requires a lot of knowledge and experience to interpret those clues and come up with the right solution.
Right.
Now, the manual dives into some specific chimney troubles, starting with wind-induced downdrafts.
Ah, yes. Wind can be a real nuisance when it comes to chimneys.
Right.
It can create high-pressure zones that force air down the flue, leading to smoke spillage and poor draft. Imagine a strong gust of wind slamming into the top of your chimney. It's like trying to blow air into a bottle. It's just going to push back.
So it's like the wind is fighting against the natural draft of the chimney.
Right.
What can be done about that?
The manual suggests several strategies depending on the severity of the problem.
Okay.
One option is to install a chimney cap that's specifically designed to deflect wind and prevent downdrafts.
Oh,
Some caps even have rotating tops that adjust to wind direction,
cool.
ensuring a constant flow of air out of the chimney.
It's like putting a shield on top of your chimney to protect it from the wind. Are there any other solutions for wind-induced downdrafts?
Sometimes raising the height of the chimney can help.
Oh, okay.
The taller the chimney, the less likely it is to be affected by wind gusts at ground level.
Makes sense.
And in some cases, installing a draft inducer can be beneficial.
A draft inducer, what's that?
It's a device that uses a small fan to create a stronger draft even in windy conditions.
Okay.
It's like giving your chimney a little boost to help it overcome those wind-related challenges.
Okay, so we've got chimney caps, taller chimneys, and draft inducers to combat those pesky downdrafts.
Yeah.
What other chimney troubles does the manual mention?
One that can be particularly tricky to diagnose and fix is a flow reversal.
A flow reversal, does that mean the smoke is going down instead of up?
Exactly. It's a situation where the exhaust gases are flowing back into the house instead of out the chimney.
Oh, no.
It can be caused by a number of factors, including something called stack effect.
Stack effect. That sounds ominous. What is it?
It's actually a pretty simple concept. Remember how warm air rises?
Yeah.
Well, in a tall building, the warm air inside tends to rise to the upper levels. Creating a slight vacuum at the lower levels. This vacuum can draw cold air in from outside through any openings it can find.
Right.
And sometimes that includes the chimney.
So it's like the house is sucking air in from wherever it can,
Yeah,
and the chimney becomes an easy target.
exactly. And if the pressure difference is strong enough, it can overcome the natural draft of the chimney and cause those exhaust gases to flow back down.
That sounds like a recipe for a smoky mess.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that can cause flow reversals?
Competing appliances are another common culprit.
Okay.
Powerful exhaust fans, like those found in kitchens and bathrooms, can create negative pressure in the house, which can disrupt chimney draft and even lead to flow reversals.
So it's like a tug of war for air pressure within the house.
Right.
the fireplace is trying to push air out
Right.
while those exhaust fans are pulling it in. What can be done about that?
Balancing the air pressure is key. The manual suggests installing air intake vents to bring fresh air into the house, especially near the fireplace.
Okay.
Sealing air leaks, as we discussed earlier, can also help, and in some cases, adjusting the flue size might be necessary.
So it's about optimizing airflow throughout the house, not just focusing on the chimney itself.
Mhm.
Now, what about the last chimney trouble you mentioned? Inadequate flow.
Inadequate flow is basically what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Not enough volume of gases moving through the chimney.
Right.
It can be caused by a number of things, including constrictions in the flue, creosote buildup in airtight house, or even low flue gas temperatures.
So it's like a chimney traffic jam.
Yeah.
Too much congestion, not enough movement. What are the solutions for that?
Again, it depends on the underlying cause. Cleaning out creosote, optimizing the connector pipes, ensuring adequate makeup air, and educating homeowners about proper burning practices are all important steps.
Because sometimes the problem isn't the chimney itself,
Right.
but how we're using it. We need to give that fire the oxygen it needs to breathe and create a strong draft.
Exactly. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, let's take a quick detour to address a specific issue mentioned in the manual:
Okay.
back puffing.
Back puffing, that doesn't sound pleasant.
It's not. Back puffing occurs when smoke and gases are forced back into the room instead of going up the chimney.
Icks.
It's often caused by oxygen starvation in wood stoves.
So it's like the chimney is suffocating and spitting smoke back at you. What can you do to prevent this?
The manual stresses the importance of proper air intake, making sure those air inlets on the stove are open and not blocked.
Right.
Burning smaller loads hotter also helps, as it creates a stronger draft and allows the fire to burn more completely.
Okay, so it's all about giving that fire the oxygen it needs to breathe.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about all those solutions the manual mentions for these different chimney troubles.
Yeah.
Are there any common threads running through them?
Absolutely. Many of the solutions revolve around optimizing airflow,
Okay.
whether that's through cleaning, ensuring proper flue sizing, or balancing pressure within the house.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
So maintaining a chimney is more than just cleaning. It's about understanding how the whole system works, from the fireplace to the very top of the chimney.
Precisely. And that's why having a knowledgeable and experienced chimney professional on your side is so valuable.
Yeah.
They can help you identify potential problems, recommend the right solutions, and keep your chimney functioning safely and efficiently for years to come.
Now that makes me think, we've talked about all these different components, but what's it actually like to have your chimney cleaned? Do they just climb up there with a brush and call it a day?
Not quite. There's a whole process involved, and the manual actually outlines a step-by-step guide for chimney cleaning and inspection.
Oh, wow.
It's like a behind-the-scenes look at what those chimney pros actually do.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's dive into that process in the final part of our chimney sweeping deep dive. All right, we're back for the final chapter of our chimney sweeping saga. We've covered the history, the science, the tools, and even how to troubleshoot those pesky problems. But what's it actually like to have your chimney cleaned? Do they just climb up there with a brush and call it a day?
Not quite. It's more involved than you might think. The manual lays out a meticulous 6-step process, from the initial inspection to the final customer report. Think of it like shadowing a chimney pro for a day.
Okay, I'm ready to put on my imaginary soot suit and get to work. What's the first step in this chimney cleaning adventure?
It all starts with the initial inspection. This is where the chimney professional gathers information and assesses the situation.
Kind of like a doctor's initial examination.
Exactly. They'll chat with the homeowner, asking questions about the heating system, how often it's used, any problems they've noticed, that kind of thing. While they're chatting, they're also observing the chimney from the outside, checking for any obvious signs of damage or hazards.
So it's a combination of gathering intel and using those detective skills we talked about earlier. What kind of things are they looking for during that external inspection?
They're examining the chimney structure itself, looking for cracks in the masonry, checking the condition of the chimney crown, the type of cap, the flashing around the base. They're also checking for things like nearby trees or obstructions that might be affecting airflow.
So they're getting a feel for the overall health of the chimney and also the surrounding environment. What happens next?
Step 2 is all about setting up and preparing for the cleaning. This is where those drop cloths come in handy. They'll lay down protection for the homeowner's carpets, and furniture set up their vacuum system to capture all that soot and debris and gather all the necessary tools for the job.
The prep work. It might not be glamorous, but it's essential for a clean and efficient job. It's like those cooking shows where they have all the ingredients measured out and ready to go before they even start cooking.
Exactly. Having everything organized and in place makes the whole process go much smoother. Now, step 3 is where we head to the rooftop for the exterior inspection and cleaning.
Time for those rooftop views. But safety first, of course.
Absolutely. The chimney professional will make sure their ladder is securely positioned and use all the proper safety gear we discussed earlier. Harness, gloves, hard hat, the whole 9 yards. Once they're safely on the roof, they'll start by conducting a more detailed inspection of the chimney exterior.
So what are they looking for up there?
They're examining the chimney crown for cracks or damage, checking the flashing around the base of the chimney to make sure it's properly sealed, inspecting the cap for any signs of wear and tear, and looking for any animal nests or debris that might be blocking the flue.
It's like giving the chimney a thorough physical exam from head to toe.
Yeah.
And then comes the actual cleaning.
Right. Depending on the chimney type and the level of creosote buildup, they'll use a combination of brushes, rods, and potentially even specialized tools like rotary loops or chemical cleaners. They'll work their way down the flue carefully, removing all that built-up soot and creosote.
So they're armed and ready to tackle that creosote. What happens after the chimney's been swept clean from the top?
We move on to step 4, interior cleaning and inspection.
Time to head back inside. So they climb back down the ladder, hopefully with all their limbs intact, and then what?
Once they're back inside, they'll clean out any debris that's fallen into the fireplace or stove during the cleaning process. They'll also inspect the damper, making sure it's operating smoothly, and check the firebox for any cracks or damage. And they'll make sure the smoke chamber, that area above the firebox where the flue begins, is clear of any obstructions.
So they're making sure everything's in tip-top shape from the inside out.
Yeah.
What's step 5?
Step 5 is a crucial one, the level eye inspection. This is where the chimney professional gets a bit more technical. They'll follow the guidelines set by the NFPA 211 to conduct a more detailed assessment of the chimney's structural integrity and safety.
It's like the final quality control check. What are they looking for during this inspection?
They're looking for any signs of damage or deterioration that could pose a safety hazard. This might include cracks in the flue liner, gaps in the mortar joints, or even evidence of a previous chimney fire.
Because a clean chimney isn't necessarily a safe chimney. So if they find something concerning during this inspection, what happens then?
They'll make recommendations to the homeowner about any necessary repairs or further evaluation. This might involve things like relining the flue, repairing damaged masonry, or even rebuilding a portion of the chimney.
It's good to know that they're not just there to clean. They're also looking out for potential safety issues. And finally, we reach step 6, the customer report and review.
This is where the chimney professional sits down with the homeowner and goes over their findings. They'll explain any necessary repairs, offer maintenance tips to help prevent future problems, and answer any questions the homeowner might have.
It's like the debriefing after the mission. They're sharing their expert knowledge and making sure the homeowner understands the importance of chimney maintenance.
Exactly. They'll also emphasize the importance of regular inspections and cleaning to keep that chimney in good working order.
So there you have it. From the sooty streets of 17th century England to the high-tech tools of modern chimney sweeping, it's a profession that's evolved dramatically over the centuries. But one thing remains constant: the importance of safety knowledge and understanding the science behind those cozy fires we all enjoy.
Absolutely. If those chimneys could talk, what stories would they tell about the homes and families they've warmed? Maybe it's time to get to know your chimney a little better.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of chimney sweeping. We hope you learned a thing or two and maybe even gained a newfound appreciation for those folks who keep our chimneys clean and safe. Until next time, stay warm and stay curious.
Okay, we're back. Hey, what'd you think, Marshall?
Wow. That was so many thoughts. One, that was amazing. They sounded like they were real and having a real conversation. And how they summarized the manual was, my goodness, I wish I had some of their phraseology so that I could have put that in the manual, because it communicated so much better the ideas in real language that we all use, which was part of the heart of the manual, trying to get it out of some of the technical things and put it into real language that we would use and remember. My goodness, that was really cool. They jogged through the entire manual in half an hour with a lot of information. You know, in some ways, Ray, I think anybody who's desirous of certification and is going to go through the manual just as a resource should actually listen to that interview first, because that's here's the outline. Here's some of the things you'll be learning, and they actually should listen to that first before they then dive into the manual. That was amazing.
Thank you, Marshall. So, tell me, how did you make the manual?
Well, one of the things, and by this I don't want to insult the men who sacrificed so much to put together the original certification programs and things like that. I want to compliment them and give them great kudos for the way they sacrificed and the things they did. But just because of who Marshall was, I have an entirely different philosophy of education. And I just saw that there were so many sweeps. And who are the kinds of sweeps that we're talking about? Most of the sweeps struggled through high school. They're not academic people. And this is not to insult them. This is just to say they learn differently. And they need different formats. They need humor. They need things that will stick. So like in the manual, they talked about fuel, air, temperature, or they never, I wish they had said this. I wish they had just said fat. How cool is that? That's easy to remember. Instead of original and more technically, FOH, fuel, oxygen, and heat, I changed a lot of things to make things fun and to make things memorable, and I would hate to say dumb down the exact same information so that it in return was far more digestible. So Marshall had a very different philosophy, saw a need, and was able to fulfill that need in such a way as to take the average sweep who struggled through the sets of manuals, the only sets of manuals at that point they had to operate with, and gave them a alternative course for those who struggled with what they were presented. And the result of that, Ray, the result was really well received, and actually made me a big fan with just the general sweeps, who were so grateful that, for the first time they went, especially with draft and flow, they went, oh my God, that finally I understand that. That makes sense. So yeah, I just, part of my gifting and calling was able to see the need and then fulfill that need in a way that made sense to those who struggled. And I loved doing that, and it was a great joy. Part of the fun was working with Royal Edwards, who wrote the original manual, the original successful chimney sweep manual. And I worked with Royal when he and I were both actually back in Florida for a little while, and worked with him about the philosophy of where I was coming from, how to rewrite material, how to use his original material and rewrite that, and then communicate different ideas. And actually, Royal was a fan, and he helped me write and edit both, not only the Certified Chimney Professional, but the Certified Chimney Reliner Manual, and included chapters, et cetera, et cetera. So first off, kudos to Royal, who was such a great help, but also caught the vision of what I had and was willing to listen and embrace the idea of, let's rewrite this in a completely different way that uses a different philosophy and different terminology for the goal of bringing them up to speed. Because once they learn fat and embrace that, then they can understand easily fuel, air, fuel, oxygen, and heat. It was not a difficult transition. So Royal did that. We had a lot of fun writing those manuals in the early days. And so kudos to him. But, the bottom line of that was it was really well received with so many companies who then gave it to their sweeps, had us in, did seminars, and they were like, oh my goodness, these guys have never learned so much in such a short time. And now I actually feel confident that I can send them out with the knowledge that they needed that I just couldn't kind of communicate. I don't know if that answers your question. It's a lengthy answer.
No, it was good. It was really good. Know what I find kind of fascinating is that deep in the building codes, there's a certain building code. It's not even IRC. It's not NFPA 211. It's not any of these other ones. It's just a building code. I forgot which one it is. But in the chapter, it talks about a certification. It's a way of getting people certified to operate a chimney sweep business. All right. In other words, that the state has this thing, they've adopted this code, and somewhere in this code it says that you can use outside means to help facilitate it. In other words, they encourage the states to explore using certifications of outside means.
Well, you're way beyond me, and that's fantastic. That's really cool.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that in Vermont, the only way to own and operate a chimney sweep business is if you're certified by either, drum roll please, it's CSIA or Certified Chimney Professionals. I mean, how did you get your certification program adopted in Vermont?
That we tried that early, I think back in 2011. It still was a multi-year process, only because there were personnel that were switching out who would be the parties who approved it. So back in 11, we met with them, and then the gentleman who was ready to approve it suddenly retired, and so we had to begin the process again, and then that guy moved to a different department, and so it was about a 4 to 5 year process, only because the personnel kept changing. But what we did was we sent the manuals, we sent them the 211, we sent them some other training material, and all they had to do was go through that and decided, this was absolutely professional level stuff that brought so much information. And then once we finally got to the right people and they were still in their positions, they then approved that. And it also had to go through a legislature issue. So it just took time, but the materials were definitely up to snuff. And then it was just an issue of working your way through the normal political channels and legislative channels.
How many certified chimney professionals had you had in Vermont?
Well, I was grateful for two things, and I'll answer your question with the second. The first was obviously Vermont saying, "Hey, these guys are up to snuff," was great. That gave us a certain prestige, saying yes, Certified Chimney Professionals is absolutely up to snuff with what the state of Vermont expects from knowledgeable, competent sweeps who have passed a professional level certification. So that in itself was satisfying, and we were grateful for that and gave us some credibility. Secondly, we actually had probably a couple dozen sweeps within the next couple of years pick up our certification who either switched or were certified for the very first time, because we actually pushed that idea with so many sweeps in Vermont and educated the sweeps who were serving public facilities without knowing that was a requirement for them. And so we were able to bring them up at a very cost-effective method. And I think there were probably at least 24 sweeps. I've got several names in the back of my head and photographs of these wonderful guys. And we spent time at places like New England Chimney Supply, doing seminars, things like that, helping sweeps get up to snuff very quickly. So that was great from both perspectives.
I think I went to one of your first chimney expos. It was free. I'm like, I kind of wonder how this guy is going to make some money off of this.
Nobody's accused me, Ray, of being a good businessman ever, especially my wife. She's like, "Marshall, you run a great charity, but you are horrible as a business person." Here's the deal, Ray. Yes, we did a chimney expo. We did a chimney convention, and we just said, "Here, it's free." Absolutely. We risked $30,000 on a harebrained, can I call it an idea? But actually, it was far more than that. It was something I knew that I would be doing years earlier because of some supernatural directives from the God I love called Papa. And God bless the suppliers who embraced what we did. We actually, even for them, we had half-price booths of the national convention, and said, "If you guys will come, we will get you the people." And for for our very first Chimney Expo, which was free for the attendees, and the exhibitors paid a pittance of the amount they normally would. We had over 350 chimney sweeps attend that convention, fed them free lunch, and had world-class classes taught by experts from all over, the names you would know from the field of chimney sweeping. And it was amazing, Ray. The coolest part was we were faithful to the vendors who actually ended up paying for the event. And so many of them still to this day go, the most effective, best convention I ever had as a vendor was the very first Chimney Expo, which was pretty cool. We actually ended up making like $2,000 on a $30,000 risk, but it was never about the money, Ray. I was prepared to lose 30 grand just because my calling was, I am here to bless the chimney sweep and to train the chimney sweep. And we wanted the sweeps there, not just owners. And we pulled it off, and it became a thing. And, obviously we were grateful. And it's a fun story. It's a fun story for us to relive. And, it continued to grow. And there was a year where we had like 600 attendees, not counting vendors and other people, 600 people through the door. And to see that happen and see and these are sweeps, not just owners, and to see them getting tools in their hands they've never seen and talk to vendors about, oh my God, I just had this situation happen and this would have been, it was remarkable to watch the growth, but more importantly, as a dad kind of perspective, it was beyond rewarding to see sweeps grow and grow and grow and grow in their knowledge of the industry, in what's available for them, and to play what I consider a small part in that, but a significant part in the lives of so many. As we've heard from them over the years, a lot of them are, Marshall, anything I can ever do for you, please let me know. So, how privileged have I been to be able to do what we did and to have the effect we did. Ray, it's just, life is good. Papa is kinder than I deserved.
I'll tell you something interesting that I kind of like the most about your Chimney Expos, and I may have been the only person who's ever cried at your Chimney Expo. But
no.
I'm going there. Yes, I'm going there. It was at your prayer breakfast. And it was just a few days after my mom died. I was attending your prayer breakfast. And so I don't know, something happened. And I spoke and I mentioned about my mom just dying. And, now I'm going to start crying on this. So I think I'm going to shut up about that. But here's the good thing is that your prayer breakfast, it still goes on. It still lives. It's grown into a giant tree. I think there's a guy in Maryland who's heading it up now.
Yep, Sean Norton.
Yes. So, you're just awesome, man. Papa's talking through you,
And that's wonderful. And part of the wonderfulness of that, Ray, was uniting the hearts of sweeps who were like, you're here, you're here, you're here. And then they begin to pray and share together. And they sat at tables for hours afterwards, getting into each other's lives, not only in chimneys, but also in their lives, their marriages, their business, and so many sweeps linked hearts and lives. And it was, call it an icebreaker, but it was really effective. And that's part of the fun part of that, where what happens afterwards, after they spent time praying together and seeking God together and humbling themselves together, sharing their life together, just the amazing amount of fruit that has happened in the lives of sweeps who have joined together and continue to then spend the next, the next year in each other's lives, being willing to be humble before themselves, humble with each other, and grow together, not only in their heart but their spirits and their walk with God. It really is all good. Now, that was something I could never have done at a national convention, but we sure could do it at the Chimney Expo. We did it, and it still yields tremendous fruit.
Well, anyways, you're still a legend, and thank you for everything you've done. I mean, trust me. And I'm not thanking you just for myself, but for every chimney sweep that you've ever touched. And so that they're listening to this right now. I'm thanking you for them. So
I'm humbled. It was a privilege to do what we did. I had to do it, Ray. And so, there's not a lot of credit. Please, it's not about the fame, fortune. It was just literally about loving others and being called to do that. We did that. Papa was kind and gracious. And Ray, those are very kind words, and thank you.
Your program right now is now at the National Chimney Sweep Guild. Is that correct?
Yes. They still have Certified Chimney Professionals there as their main sweeping certification. They do have the liner. We added Journeyman to that, and it is all accredited, which, oh my goodness, that has taken it to the next level. And there are so many good things you'll continue to hear about that and advantages to the accreditation. They were able to do what I could only have dreamed of. And yes, to be certified now, you go through the guild, ncsg.org. You can click on chimney sweeping certification and or give them a call. They're glad to help walk you through that. Anybody at any time can contact me, and I still have lots of information I'm glad to send out for free, PowerPoints, et cetera, things that will help. And I'm glad to do that, even though I'm not a part of I'm not paid or anything like that. I've retired from that a couple of years ago. I'm still glad to send out really good information that helps sweeps progress to getting their certification.
Okay, Marshall. So thank you for being on the show. And it was great talking to you, and sweeps luck to you.
Thank you, Ray, and back to you. Seriously, this was awesome. Thank you.
And bye-bye.
Bye now.